Tanner Wooten from Blue by 90 in the house. Go Blue.
Hey, John, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm just breaking down the game here with our Voice of College Football folks in chat. You know, we have Michigan fans, and we also have that team down south fans.
Yeah, Ohio State fans. I'll say it. I'm a grown man. I'll say it.
I've been saying Ohio, but you know, since they say that team up north, you know.
So I have two questions for the Ohio State fans in the chat. Why is it such a big deal when, one, your coach and your entire program and fans refer to Michigan as that team up north?
Yeah.
And two, Ohio Stadium, you do Ohio on the band with the band on the field, script Ohio. Like, so where's the issue with calling Ohio State Ohio? I don't get it. Somebody enlighten me, please.
Yeah, it's in their fight song.
I don't know, man. That really gets under their feathers, under their skin, ruffles their feathers, I should say. Yeah, man. It's I was just downtown Ann Arbor a little bit ago, just driving through, had to go get my haircut. Really just feeling the atmosphere as I'm driving around town. It just feels different, man. It always does. This week is something special. You know, no matter what, Michigan, Ohio State fans hate each other, go at each other. Like, it is really special to be a part of the best rivalry in all of sports, in my opinion. Like, the greatest rivalry. I don't care. I mean, you could talk to me about Premier League, whatever. No, this is the game. That's why it's called the game. This is the rivalry, man. And this is the most fun game. It's the most fun week of the year with Thanksgiving. You know, our Lions are sitting there at 8-2 after a big win. Got the Lions game on Thanksgiving. You know, there's a lot of great football on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this is part of the best time of the year. We've got a lot of college basketball. It's just a special time. And this rivalry, man, is just something else. There's just something about it. Like, I have a pit in my stomach right now. I've had a pit in my stomach since Saturday at 3:00, John. Like, I am so amped. Have you ever seen The Big Short? You ever seen that movie? Big Short. Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling. It's about the financial crisis of 2008.
Oh, I feel like I might have seen like clips of it or something.
So there's a clip in that movie where they're trying, Ryan Gosling's trying to close a deal. He's trying to make millions and millions of dollars, and he's in the bathroom and he's on the phone, and he just is like, I'm jacked to the tits. That's how I feel. This is the greatest rivalry in college football in the sport universe, man. So all the Ohio State fans, Michigan fans, we can agree on that. I know we can't agree on much. We can agree that this is the greatest rivalry in all of sports.
Absolutely. Go Blue to all. And it's Thanksgiving and it's everything. So, Moose, we'll get to breaking down the game and the keys to the game and all that good stuff. But Moose did contribute, so we appreciate that. John, Mark has FSU ahead of Mich in CFP rankings. Well, yeah, Mark does the top 25 that actually makes sense based on resume. So he argues that FSU has the LSU win. He argues that
does LSU win better than the Penn State win for Michigan?
No, I think that was so Penn State was the best win for Michigan, and then the question is after that, right? So
what's Florida State's after that? Clemson?
Possibly.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
We know Mark.
Yeah. You got the Buckeye perspective too. Yeah. But no, I don't. It is what it is. It's all going to shake out on the field.
It is. That's what. So we did the Bleacher Report thing, and they're like, "Hey, we want to talk college football playoff rankings." And I'm like, "Why? There's no need to. It's gonna the college football playoff is going to settle itself on the field in Ann Arbor on Saturday at noon. There's no other reason to talk about it. Like, it's pointless now, So this is going to decide everything, which is unbelievable. It's fantastic. And Steven asked if I was going to cry. Sorry for being excited about Michigan, Ohio State. My bad. I'll try to come through with a little less energy during the week of the game.
Oh, you can't listen to that guy because.
Hey, man, I see stuff. I'm like, I try not to look at it, but I'm curious. Curiosity killed the cat. I try to see what's going on there, but yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun one, man. It's gonna be cold. I got layers I'm ready to put on.
Yeah, like 40 degrees. I saw.
I think the low is like in the morning. So we're going to be, and if anybody wants to come through Michigan or Ohio State, we're gonna have free beer from North Peak Brewing. We're gonna be set up at the front. So Michigan Stadium, to the right of its Chrysler Center where the basketball team plays, and there's a parking lot there. We're going to be like far left in that parking lot, set up, food, drinks, having fun. So anybody stop by, man, some North Peak Brewing, maybe some gift cards, something of the sort. So we're going to be getting after it. And I believe, gosh, earlier in the week it was like 17 degrees at 6 a.m. I think now it's like 20 something. So yeah, it's gonna be a cold one, but it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I heard there might be snow. There's a chance.
Oh God,
wouldn't that be great?
Man, let's see. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be 21 degrees at 8 a.m. So it's gonna be a cold one. I see 0% chance of precipitation for most of the day though. So you know, it'll be fine. It'll be cold. It's gonna be slobber knocking football, Big Ten football, man, in November. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you think this is like the most anticipated game that there's been? Because I mean, there's been 06, and obviously last year was also for all the marbles and was 11-0 versus 11-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think this might be the biggest.
But to me, with everything going on, like in the universe right now, and all the animosity and everything feels like it's coming to a head.
Yeah, I think this is certainly probably the biggest game that I can remember. I mean, last year was massive, but you know, you throw everything on top of it. I also think about the end of the Big Ten as we know it, right? I mean, look, Rutgers, Maryland, and Nebraska. You know, Nebraska coming to the Big Ten wasn't a big deal. It made sense at the time, still does. But Rutgers, Maryland, I mean, even that, like, this still feels like the Big Ten for the most part. I've gotten used to it. But now you bring in these California schools, Washington, Oregon, you know, in the 12-team playoff next year, like, this is the last time, because the loser's not getting in. I don't think there's any way the loser gets in, because you're going to have so many 12-1 teams there with the conference championship. I just don't think it's going to happen. So this is the last time that this is really going to be a de facto playoff game, right? Like, win or go home. And I think next year, if they're both 11-0 next year, it doesn't matter because the loser is still going to the playoff. So this is the biggest game that I can remember, but I also think it's going to be the biggest game that we see in this rivalry for a long, long time, unless they meet up in a natty or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Ralph is pointing out that the 06 winner went right to the national championship. So okay.
Yeah, that was a big one, but I feel like with where these programs are, it's really almost at a crossroads in this rivalry, right? Of what's going to happen in the future, depending on Saturday's outcome. It just, I feel it. I feel it in my chest, and I feel it. Just, it's something different about this one.
Yep, and Mikey Sanders still saying this is the Big Ten championship because I mean, cover your ears, Iowa fans, because
all disrespect intended to Brian Ferentz from Mike Sanders still, by the way.
I think so breaking it down, and we could start with kind of the quarterback difference because, you know, the last 2 years Ohio State had CJ Stroud, who we see now just turned a crap Texans team into a team that might actually contend for their division in the NFL in 1 year, right? And so they go from that to Kyle McCord, who I would argue is a step down, maybe two, but he has one of the best wide receivers we've seen in college football too, with Marvin Harrison Jr. So where do you think that like quarterback battle is now? Obviously Michigan has JJ. He had seemed a little banged up last week, but he says he's in the press conference. He said he was good to go basically. Where do you think that is with both teams?
Yeah, Michigan has the advantage. I don't know how you can argue that if you want to look at, you know, stats. Sure, I guess. You know, McCord has, I think, more yardage. You know, they're throwing a lot of deep balls to Marvin, trying to get Marvin, you know, an invite to New York. Which, hey, I don't disagree. Do what you got to do. Kid's a stud. I mean, look, I'm going to say this: Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the best college football player I've seen since maybe like Ndamukong Suh. Like, I don't want to be outlandish, but I don't think that's a hot take. Like, I think he's that good. And that helps McCord out a lot. Now, the thing with McCord is, what does he do when his first read of Marvin Harrison Jr. is covered or isn't open or the throw's not there? You know, sometimes he can tend to make some risky throws, and sometimes they're not picked, like against Notre Dame, but sometimes they're like against Wisconsin. So what can Michigan do Well, I don't want to get hit myself, but I feel like, McCord coming in, first time starter in the game. JJ's been there, done that on the road. Now he's back at home. He made some big plays as a freshman too. I mean, he had some big throws in that game when they would
Sure.
sneak him in there, in that diamond, kind of that pistol diamond package they'd run with Edwards. So, I mean, JJ's been there and done that, right? JJ's been to a playoff game, and yeah, he had an up and down performance against TCU, but like he kind of thrives in these big games, right? So. Not to say McCord's bad, but I just have more faith in McCarthy from what I've seen on the field. And JJ McCarthy is, I mean, what is he now? 22-1 as a starter. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, and McCord's 11-0 as a starter, right? So I mean, it's two guys that know how to win, but
Sure.
I think you can rattle McCord. I think you can confuse him with different drop coverages. Like, what is he going to do when Braden McGregor's right in the throwing lane because he drops out of his rush spot, right? Like,
Right.
We saw Stroud almost make a couple turnovers that way. I want to see what McCord, how he responds to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, facing Michigan's defense, it's not like facing. I mean, we talk about Notre Dame's defense, we've talked about Penn State's defense, but Michigan's defense is on another level, I would say. I mean, I think it's right there with Ohio State as two of the best in the country.
Yeah, I mean, they looked a little shaky against Maryland at times, and part of that is I mean, look, I'm going to say it. Talia might be the third. Shit, is he the second best quarterback in the Big Ten? I mean,
I think so.
Talent wise, like, look, he makes some boneheaded throws, right? He makes some boneheaded decisions that McCord does not make, but arm talent wise, he might be up there.
He's really good.
And he was throwing some dimes, right, where guys had good coverage, but it's a perfect ball and he can't really defend it. So, but then he'll go and throw an inexplicable pick to Mike Sandersville 2 times. So, I mean, when I'm looking at Michigan's defense, they had some struggles last week. Will Johnson got burnt on a fly route, which is not great to see. But the last time that I had concerns about Will Johnson was the Nebraska game, and then that next week he comes out with a pick six, play 2 of the game. So I think Michigan as a front on the defensive line, I mean, they go 8 or 9 deep. We've talked about all season long. These guys are as good as any group in the country. You've got Kenneth Grant as that third guy rotating in on the defensive tackle spot behind Graham and Jenkins. So, I want to see if Ohio State can run the ball on those guys. I think their guards are the weak spot in the pass pro, and I think we saw Graham and Grant both get a sack. Jenkins had some pressure; he forced the throwaway.
Yep.
So they had a lot of pressures against Maryland. Now, PFF is not the gospel, I will admit that, but it is kind of a good baseline, and they have Maryland and Ohio State, I think, 6 or 7 spots apart in pass block grading so far in 2023. So I think Michigan's able to get pressure. I think they're going to have some things dialed up, and I'm really excited to watch this defense play, man. They're just fly to the ball. And I think last week, probably not as much juice as is going to be on Saturday. I think you can probably safely assume that.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, that the play calling against Maryland, that they were keeping a lot saved. Isaiah Hole mentioned it this morning on that show on Locked On Wolverines. I mean, it's just kind of like, they have proven now. It used to be in 2019, 2018, they're saving stuff for Ohio State, but then we saw the same damn offense practically. Okay. But in 2022, they were saving plays. And you saw how much the offense was so much more dynamic than when I watched the game live against Illinois, and it was like it seemed like the whole game plan was pound Blake Corum up the middle. I can't help but think that we won't see a rinse repeat this year of, hey, we're saving some stuff. Probably Corum and Edwards on the backfield at the same time.
Yes.
Probably more stuff with Roman Wilson, because when JJ and Roman are connecting, they seem to click most of the time, if not all the time. What do you expect to see in some of the concepts that we might see in this game?
Concept wise, I don't know, but I think you're going to see a lot of JJ McCarthy being utilized in the run game. I do think whatever injury he's got, he's a tough kid. He's not going to let that get in the way, right?
No.
I mean, he's going to be the type of kid, hey, give me a shot, let's roll, right? Give me some cortisone up in there and let's get after it, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of him. You're running the ball. I think you're going to see some, like you mentioned, with Blake and Donovan on the field at the same time, or even Kalel Mullings, because Kalel Mullings is really a blocker, right? I mean, he can get out. He's 6'2", 230, can get out and run and potentially block on some sort of outside run. I think you try to get Donovan in a mismatch scenario on a linebacker. Like if Donovan gets matched up with Eichenberg or Chambers, really good linebackers, you're not going to be very successful covering Donovan Edwards out of the slot, right? So I think you try to find ways to get him involved. I love when they send Roman Wilson in motion, kind of like the yo-yo, I think is what it's called, where then he comes back out and is open a lot of the times. Just a lot of window dressing, a lot of eye candy, I guess you could say, right? A lot of different things as far as shifting and how you line up. And I just have a feeling that they're going to come ready to play, man. I really do. I think this offense, has been fantastic all year. Sans the last week, which even then, still scored 4 touchdowns. So I have a good feeling. 3 touchdowns, I should say. One of them is defensive, but I just have a good feeling about this team, man. JJ McCarthy, I think he embodies what this rivalry is all about, and I think he's going to come out and play great under the bright lights. The theoretical lights, so not the night versus day conversation we got going on in the comments.
The big stage, the hypothetical. Well, the Rod, who's one of our more reasonable Buckeyes, has pointed out it looks like Simon is now starting over Chambers. So
can he guard Donovan?
Tommy Two Thumbs?
Can he guard Donovan Edwards out of the slot? Then I don't know if I appreciate the update. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But can he guard Edwards out of the slot? I don't know. I don't think many linebackers
your point's
can.
Still the same.
Yeah.
Your point's still the same.
Thank you, Rod. I love being educated on football, man. It's I like to know. I like to be in the know.
Yeah, me too. So Jesse Allen, thank you for your contribution. And we just talked about running concepts. So the game always comes down to whoever controls the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively, as John Madden said and complimented Michigan. The game is won in the trenches, and whoever runs the ball better wins. It's always been that way. Thank you, Jesse, for your contribution, and absolutely.
Yeah, man. It's offense and defensive line. That's what football is. It's blocking and it's tackling. Can you get the push when you need to get a yard? I think one team can. I'm curious about the other. Can you go under center and go get a yard on 4th and 1 when you need it? That's what this game's always been about. It's what it always should be about. Like, you can put up all the great, stats and awesome receivers, and yeah, they're going to make plays. They're going to be big time in this game. But when it counts, can you go get a yard? So I just feel good about Michigan's line of scrimmage play. I have all year. And for the folks that are like, oh, well, they didn't run that well against Maryland. John, did I not come on here and say that Michigan was going to run against Penn State? And what did they do? They ran for 230 yards. Michigan, against the best rush defenses they've faced all year, have been great on the ground in those games. So I have a feeling Michigan's going to come out ready to go. This O-line, they were playing pretty pissed off early on against Maryland, and then I think they kind of got lulled to sleep a little bit later in that game. But I think they're going to come out juiced up, man, and ready to go on the offensive line. And I think that defensive line, man, I think they're going to have a big day. I mean, you watch Kenneth Grant at 350 pounds cross a dude's face for a sack. I mean, it's unbelievable watching this kid play. Mason Graham also. I came in here. Somebody called me out saying I thought Mason Graham was going to be a first-round pick. They thought that was a bad take. I stand by that. That kid is a monster of a football player. So we'll see. I mean, Ohio State with Mike Hall, I believe he's banged up a little bit. Buckeyes, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's going to give it a go. So we'll see how that goes for him. He's a really good player. Tyleik Williams is a really good player. Obviously Sawyer and JTT on the edges. So they've got a great defense as well. But I think Michigan's going to be able to run the ball and keep drives moving.
Moose, John, fun fact, the team that wins has had the more rushing yards than the last 20 years. Yeah, I think the last time that wasn't the case was like 2000.
Yes, 21 games in a row, I believe.
That's why if I have one concern, it's can we limit Travion Henderson and Chip Trayanum in that combination? Because I believe in Blake Corum. I believe in Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullings and what they can do. But Travion Henderson at full strength without being injured, that's a dog. I mean, he's a legit running back. And they were missing that last year. They were missing that threat.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns.
Back,
Yeah, he's one of my big concerns, right? Like, don't turn a 5-yard mistake into a touchdown, right? Like, get him down. Don't let him get out in the open because he will take it
as quick as possible.
Absolutely. So the linebackers are going to have to play good. Need to make sure that you keep everything in front of you from a safety perspective as well, even in the run game, right? Like, In the past game, they're going to play too deep, just like they have been all year. I mean, every time you watch Michigan, for the most part, they're playing their safeties in the parking lot, and that's because they're preparing for this game. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, I think Henderson has been playing his ass off lately, and he's looked really, really good. He had a great game against Minnesota. He had a long run, and he's looking healthier and healthier, which is great. I love to see these guys healthy for the game. So it's going to be a tough one with him because he's a really good player. It's him and Marvin for me, right? Like those are the two guys that give me the most pause. I'm just hopeful that Will Johnson can come in and play like he can, because he's going to be a top 10 pick in 2025, right? Like I need to see him play like that. Continue to boost his draft stock, and if he can just win 50% of the battles against Harrison, right? It's going to be like that MSU Michigan game where Jordan Lewis and Aaron Burbridge went at it, but Burbridge still had like 9 catches for 100 yards, but they were just getting after it. Like, 20 targets went his way, right? Like that's what it's got to be. He's got to be able to make his fair share of plays too.
Yeah. So one concern I might have is if they do change up their defense, maybe more of a single high, or have more guys back, because obviously last year Michigan took advantage of the fact that they were going a lot of zero blitz, a lot of man, reminiscent a little bit of Don Brown, Dr. Blitz, a little bit, and it seems like Knowles might have learned from that mistake, and if anything else, Ryan Day is in his ear saying, "You better make damn sure there's some guys back there to stop any deep passes."
See, that's where I'm wondering how they're going to play Michigan. Are they gonna play their kind of beat us down the field defense, right? That Michigan likes to play against Ohio State, or are they going to play we're going to get after your run game defense, right? With the cover zero looks, bringing 6, 7, 8 guys in the box, bringing a safety down. If they do either of those things, I don't know, man. It's got to be a good combination of both from Ohio State's perspective, right? Like you can't just go one or the other like they did last year, because when they were in cover zero, Michigan beat them for 3 touchdowns in the air, and then they started to kind of bring their safeties deeper, and then that's when Michigan was gashing them on the ground for that.
Right.
I mean, that was like a 9-minute drive in the third quarter that went into the fourth quarter. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what Jim Knowles is going to do. It's going to be very interesting to watch this game just from a schematic and a tactical standpoint, because I mean, there is the game within the game, right? Like there is the kind of the back and forth from the coaches, like the meta game. And then there's obviously the game that the players play, but these coaches are thinking about this game 365 days a year because it's their job to. So I'm going to be very curious to see what Ryan Day and Jim Knowles trot out there defensively. I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they try to play Michigan. So, and we're going to see, because both teams are going to have a scripted drive, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
2021 Michigan goes down and scores in like 7 plays. 2022 Ohio State goes down and scores in like however many plays. So, there's going to be those scripted drives. Urban Meyer's helping out with that, even though he's in person, advanced scouting, whatever. I'm just kidding. Please don't yell at me. So it's going to be, there's I think what you'll see, just like last year's, I think Ohio State's going to try to come out with some, more aggression on the ground like they did in 2022. If you notice that first touchdown drive they had, man, they were on the ground and they were getting good yardage, and then Ryan Day just inexplicably went away from it. So it's going to be interesting to watch these kind of first couple of drives for each team, what their scripted drive is that they've got coming out to start in the first half.
Yeah, and I will say the one thing that kind of impressed me with Michigan last week, and I know that Maryland, they held a lot back, and obviously Roman Wilson was taken out early for precautionary reasons. There was a lot of things in there where I think I understand why people didn't feel warm and fuzzy, but there were also a lot of extenuating circumstances. You lose your deep threat, passing threat, pretty early. And a lot going on, but special teams, and defense, but special teams, including that safety, that impressed me, and I think that they're clearly working on that a lot, to be dynamic. So if one of the 3 phases, like the offense, sputters a little bit, well, you've got the opportunity to score points on defense and special teams.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Michigan blocked the punt, got a safety out of it. Tommy Dolman was a monster. Very draftable punter, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I love Brad Robbins, and he's starting with the Bengals. But Doman might be better, right? Like that. I mean, that punt with that English on it to down it at the 1 is unbelievable. Like that's what I tried to do in Madden or NCAA. I never could get it down like that, right?
Can't do it any better than that.
No, I always just go for the corner to the right of the pylon or to the left, depending on what side of the field. So yeah, I mean, he was great. You know, and I do think that this is going to be kind of a slugfest, right? Like I don't think it's going to be up and down the field like a track meet. Like I think it's going to be points are going to be at a premium. So and field position is as well. So I think Doman being as good as he is going to be, you know, a nice thing. I'm going to be honest. I don't know anything about Ohio State's punter. So if anybody wants to correct me, but Doman is one of the best in the country. So, you know, neither team have really needed their punters too much this year, but you know, Doman came up clutch when they needed it down at the 1, and then that ended up leading to the safety on the intentional grounding. So, yeah, I think Michigan special teams has always been good. Ohio State has always been pretty good too. I mean, they've had some big special teams plays in this game. So, but yeah, we're going to see, man, it's going to take all 3 phases to win this game, no matter which team it is.